Good evening and welcome to your evening news bulletin with Television Tonga News. Making headlines, World Bank pledged $8 million assistance to fund the construction of some transitional houses in cyclone-affected island of Hawaii. Installation of Tonga Power Limited new diesel generator complete, with hope it can help lower down electricity tariff rates. And more than 4,000 new voters already registered for this year's general election. These and more stories together with news from around the region, the sports, world news and the weather bulletin to follow later on in this bulletin. Now for the news in details, I'm Galolaini Tonglava Paletua. The World Bank is offering more than $8 million to help with the construction of new transitional homes for the affected families in Hawaii. The Deputy Prime Minister, who is also Minister for Infrastructure, Sami Vaipulu, confirmed this to Radio and Television Tonga News today. We join Sin Latu with the details.
Speaking exclusively to Radio and Television Tonga News, the Honourable Deputy Prime Minister and Minister for Infrastructure, Honourable Sami Vaipulu, spoke more of the assistance pledged by the World Bank for the Hawaii relief effort. The Deputy Prime Minister adds about 800 homes were damaged or affected from Tropical Cyclone Ian's visit to the Hawaii group of islands. He says part of the construction of the transitional homes will be funded by the World Bank and the rest by the Tongan government. The World Bank has revealed that pledge $8 million for this project building the transitional houses. The World Bank officials will host a meeting in May to discuss the amount of money, and they are expected to meet again in the near future to discuss other financial assistance provided for Tonga. The World Bank is likely to release their funding in June or July. The Deputy Prime Minister says, the World Bank estimates that the cost for the damages to houses in Hawaii is around 90 million pa'anga. This project involves the residential houses only, but not the schools. It includes renovating houses that were partially destroyed by the cyclone. It was divided into 3 groups. There were houses that were completely destroyed, some that faced major damages, and also houses that faced minimal damage from Cyclone Ian, which we didn't think of. However, the World Bank brought it up during their last visit. He adds that the government is doing its best to help revive Hawaii's economic status. Part of their operation includes building homes for affected families after Tropical Cyclone Ian's visit. For Television Tonga News, I'm Sinilato.
The staff of the Tonga Power Limited has successfully installed the new diesel generator which aims for efficient generation of electricity for Tonga. The installation process was the reason for the 8 hours power outage for all of Tongatapu last night. During the power outage, Radio Tonga 1 and 2 were the only radio stations providing service for the people of the country, thanks for the Tonga Broadcasting Commission's generator. The purpose was to disseminate the useful information and awareness programs for the people. Anasil Falekaono with that story.
The whole of Tongatapu was without power last night due to the installation of the new power generator. The CEO of the Tonga Power Limited, John Van Brink, confirmed this to Radio and Television Tonga News that the operation last night was running smoothly. He says with the newly installed generator, there's a possibility that the cost of the electricity will be reduced compared to the current electricity tariff rate. He also spoke more of last night's installation operation.
It's twice the size of the machines we're replacing, so we're replacing 2 machines with 1. It's what's called a medium speed machine, so it runs a bit slower and it's much more efficient. What that means is that it saves us diesel. So we hope to save probably in a year about 400,000 pa'anga in fuel costs and also in lower maintenance and operating costs. So it's well worth doing, but it did mean the pain of having power outage for 8 hours. There will be a reduction in our generating costs as a result of this machine, definitely, yep. The extent to which our power price will go down obviously depends as much on the cost of diesel internationally. You know, we're always at the mercy of what's happening in Singapore at the diesel price and the foreign exchange rate. But if things don't change in those areas and we just replace the generator with this new one, yes, there will be a reduction of some 2%, maybe a good 1.5 centi per kilowatt hour.
Mr. Van Brink also adds that they required a total of 8 hours power outage for all Tongatapu because the installation phase is a lot of work and requires extra timing.
We're in the process of installing a new diesel generator. We've got at Popua Power Station a number of diesel generators that are coming to the end of their life and they have to be replaced. The generator we're installing is the same as another one we already have running, and it's actually a much more efficient one than the generators we're replacing. But to get the generator going, we have to obviously cable it in and connect it to the switchboard so that we can get the power out of the power station and into the town and along the island. Because all the power flows through a switchboard, we had to actually turn the power off and shut down our generators to make everything safe, and then we had to extend the switchboard and put a couple of new switches in place. The switches will actually allow for the new generator to be connected. Also in future, when the Viney solar plant is running, there'll be a new connection for the Viney solar plant equipment next year, so we're preparing for that. But because of the nature of the work and the fact that it was right at the power station, we had to turn power off to everybody.
The CEO of Tonga Power also stressed this is the first time that people all over Tongatapu have experienced a long period power outage. Mr. Van Brink also spoke of the reason behind the replacement of the old generator machine, because it has been in service for more than 35 years. Meanwhile, another maintenance work was also carried out by the staff of Tonga Power towards the Nuku'alofa area. According to the CEO of Tonga Power, the operations included replacing of the electricity power poles and others. The installation of the generator was conducted by staff from the Tonga Power in collaboration with staff from the North Power Company in New Zealand. The estimated cost for the newly installed generator is estimated at 10 million pa'anga and fully funded by the Tonga Power. For Television Tonga News, I'm Manasio Falegaono.
Justice Charles Cato has sentenced a man and a woman for passport scam. The man, Otto Duitubol, who's a former senior immigration officer at the Immigration Division, with his co-accused, the woman, Sophia Laugao. Justice Cato ruled for Mr. Duitubol to be sentenced for 3 years imprisonment and 9 months suspension if Duitubol commit no further offences. Laugao was sentenced for 2 years imprisonment and 9 months suspension with same condition granted for Mr. Duitubol. Meanwhile, Duitubol was charged for attempted conversion by government civil servant, and Sophia Laugao was charged for attempted forgery. Information from the Supreme Court says Duitubol was involved in a joint enterprise with Laugao and possibly others to obtain false passports. Duitubol obtained and gave 2 uncompleted passports to Laugao, whose role was to arrange a third party to insert a passport photo and details of a Chinese national into the passports. Laugao promised the third party he or she will receive 5,000 up to 10,000 pa'anga from this scam. After completing the passport scam, the third party informed the police about the scam. More than 4,000 new voters have already registered for this year's general election, which will be held in November. These newly registered voters were never registered in the last election, including anyone who had turned 21, which is the legal age to vote. This is according to the Supervisor of Election, Peter Vuki, when speaking to Radio and Television Tonga News today during the Pacific Islands Australia and New Zealand Electoral Administrators Network, or BNZR, meeting, which is currently underway in Nuku'alofa. Sin Latu was there and filed this report.
The purpose of the meeting is to discuss relevant electoral issues that can help improve electoral work in the region. Mr. Vuki says the issues included in this regional meeting's agenda includes Australia's assistance towards Pacific Island countries and its election processes and registrations. Also, a staff exchange program for Pacific Island countries will be discussed, which aims at exchanging staff members from election officers in the region to learn about the election operations. According to the Supervisor of Election, the meeting held in Tonga is timely because Tonga is preparing for the second general election to be held in the country in November. Mr. Vuki says they are looking at awareness program for the people in the communities regarding the upcoming election and how people are prepared to vote. Meanwhile, the election supervisor says the Election Commission's office is running smoothly with its registration process of the new voters for this year's election. The process to register the voters continues before the candidates for election begins their registration in October this year.
Supreme Court has convicted 3 former employees of the Westpac Bank of Tonga yesterday. The former employees Amo Oi Loketi Fifita Ulhewa Latu and Sani Matafahi were convicted for embezzlement and falsification of accounts. Justice Charles Cato ruled to remain all the accused in police custody until their sentencing will be delivered on April 4th. Meanwhile, another accused charged for the same counts, Tavake Kaufusi, was taken into custody before after he pleaded guilty for the same charges. 5 former employees of the bank were accused for the same charges, and one of the accused died at the end of last year. Tonga was successful with its participation in the Pacifica Festival in New Zealand in showcasing the traditional Tonga handicrafts and carvings. According to information from the Tonga National Arts and Handicrafts Association, the reports from the 6 members in the association were also amongst the Tongan team. They were able to collect more than 30,000 New Zealand dollars. This is not taking into account the sales and profits earned by more than 30 participants altogether who travelled for the exhibition in New Zealand. We join Salamo Fulivai with more on that story.
Honourable Anaseini Tupovehola Fustua was at the Pacifica Festival in Auckland to welcome the representatives from Tonga. According to information from the National Coordinator of the Handicrafts and Cultural Tourism Support Program, Mona Lisa Palushi says this year's outcome in sales at the festival was more than expected. She adds the displays of Tongan handicrafts, arts and carvings were outstanding, according to the feedback from the viewers. Those who participated in the trip earned a lot of money in just 2 days. They did not just earn a lot of money, but they also learned some new ways on marketing and selling their products. They've also met some business owners there who've asked them to help supply their businesses with resources and products from Tonga to be sold in New Zealand. According to Mona Lisa, the program was funded by the Ministry of Commerce, Tourism and Labour. Tonga's participation in the Pacifica Festival aims at advertising and promoting Tonga to the world using the Tongan traditional handicrafts, arts, carvings, and the traditional dishes. A first-time participant from the Talamahu market, who's also a member of the Tonga National Arts and Handicrafts Association, told Radio and Television Tonga News that this type of work helps inject a generous income for her and her family. The products that were sold the most during the Pacifica Festival were jewels that were made here in Tonga. It included products that were made from seashells, coconut husk, and other local materials. There were other Tongan traditional things like kiekie and tauvala. I believe that we earned a lot of money from those traditional items. Meanwhile, Etuate Lavulavu from the Unuaki o Tonga Institute also showed support during the 2-day festival. He told Radio and Television Tonga News he traveled with 20 students to perform various traditional Tongan dances during the festival. We went and performed 32 items, and they were all different Tongan dances, including the Me'etupaki, Kailao, Lakalaka, Soke, and others. The Unuaki o Tonga Royal Institute funded the students' traveling expenses, and they are expected to return back next month. Meanwhile, Mona Lisa Palu from the Tonga National Arts and Handicrafts Association also told Radio and Television Tonga News in just 2 days they have learned more marketing skills. For Television Tonga News, I'm Salamo Fulivai.
And that's the local news for tonight. Now here's the latest from around the region.